So I think that we should start. So let's start there. So welcome everyone. My name is Magnus Melander. I think I know most of you. I'm co-founder of Things, and I work as our evangelist in our deep tech hub. We started Things 2014 in order to learn together with large and small companies, mainly in industry applications, about how to transform innovation in small, sharp companies, innovative companies, to create value creation in large companies through collaboration between them. The whole idea was that large companies, they really need to learn to work with smaller companies in order to keep control and see what happens in their own domain and also outside the domain. And small companies in those areas where we are active, they have difficulties to scale rapidly and properly and need to tag along together with large companies to scale. That was the assumption we started Things on. We are focusing on industry, infrastructure, utilities, and mobility. Those are the four areas. And as you all know, it's each of those are very hard. It takes a long time. It's very physical. There's a lot of research going into those areas, and projects takes normally a long time and so forth. So we like to work with things that are difficult. We have about 130 Things members or alumni. These are companies we have been or are working with in those efforts. And we have about 45 corporates. They are all members in what we call Things Enterprise Circle. Out of the 45, basically 1/3 is in foreign companies and 2/3 are Swedish. So we started 6 years ago to try to understand how smaller and larger companies should actually meet. It's almost like dating. What do you wear and how do you go around when you go to a date? And after a couple of years of workshops where large companies asked for questions and things they wanted us to cover, we agreed that we knew a lot about this and we should actually make it a national, larger platform to focus specifically on the matchmaking. And we initiated something that became Ignite Sweden, which quite many of you probably have heard. So for more than 3 years, Ignite Sweden has been doing matchmaking. I think they've done 3,500 or so well prepared and planned and executed meetings between a large and a small company to date. We have now invented what we call the eBazaar, very much because of the situation that we ended up with Krona, where most of the larger companies that we and our members are working with, they were not around any longer. They went to sleep or they stopped working, or they partly got rid of people or whatever. Most of the projects actually got into a halt. So we decided to start to focus on filling up the sales funnel for the smaller companies instead. And that's why we came up with the concept of the eBazaar. The whole idea is to make our corporate ready members easily access relevant larger companies, primarily abroad, but also in Sweden. And it's primarily potential customers, partners, investors, media and analysts that we try to bring to the bazaars. And we have now done 5 in the first pilot round, 5 bazaars in about 8 weeks. So it's been quite busy. So the first one was in Industry 4.0, the second one, smart utilities. Third one was AI, the fourth one, smart buildings, and this one is about smart mobility. So about 30 pitches, well, exactly 30 pitches have been made for about 320 attendees from 25 countries. So we're going to evaluate all of this, and we are planning to do this in a more regular way in the fall. So smart mobility we do together with Drive Sweden. which is a great partnership. Drive Sweden is helping us to promote the event and spread the word deeper and broader into the industry. And that's how we operate with partners in our bazaars. So thank you for that. I'm happy to announce that we are more than 70 people signing up for this event, excluding speakers and staff. And we are from about 9 countries. So I'm really happy for that. And this is how it will work. I will moderate this. You will hear very little from me when we get going. We'll make sure that the speakers stay in time. It's about 8 to 10 minutes plus questions. And you should also know that we saved a video of this event, and we'll broadcast it in our YouTube channel afterwards. So we can always go in there and find exactly the presentation that you would like to look at another time. In all our events, we always allow the corporate attendees to be here without showing their name or anything. So we never give away the addresses or contact details for the corporate people. But after the event, you will get the post-event mail from us, and where in there you will find all the contact details for all the presentations. And also you have the opportunity to give us some feedback if you like. Appreciate that a lot. So that's how it will work. And I think we should jump right into the program of today. So let's see if we have Jonathan from Univrses around. Are you there, Jonathan?
Hi, Magnus.
Great. Can you share the screen and let me see if that works?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make my video, but that's not. Host has stopped it. Okay, I will share the screen.
Perfect. Something is happening. There we go. A presentation mode. Here we go. Excellent. So Jonathan, take it away.
So thank you, Magnus. My name's Jonathan. I'm the CEO at Univrses, and what you see before you on the screen is our vision of the future. You can see the city there with those vehicles that are all colored yellow. And the reason they're colored yellow is because Univrses writes software to give them all perception capability. So we write software that processes data from sensors on board those moving platforms, mostly cameras, but also LiDARs and inertial sensors, to allow those vehicles and those platforms to understand where they are in space, where they are relative to their surroundings, so their position, what the 3D structure of the space around them is, of the world around them is, and indeed what the semantic nature of that 3D structure is. So as an autonomous car driver, as a car drives down the road and it sees a lump of structure on the right, is that lump a park bench and it's probably going to stay still? Or is it a dog and it might run out in front of the car and the car needs to think about that and do something about it? So Univrses writes perception software to give these vehicles perception capability. We're a relatively young company, founded in 2015, and we're experts in what we say 3D computer vision. So this is understanding the 3D world around us using cameras and machine learning. We mainly focus in markets like autonomous driving and mobile robots, but you'll see some work we're now doing in smart cities in a minute. It's about 30 of us and about half have PhDs in relevant subjects. The type of companies we work with, you see Zenuity, that's a Volvo Cars wholly owned subsidiary working on their autonomous software stack. ABB, as you know, is a Swedish industrial working in mining, amongst other applications. And then Husqvarna, of course, makes domestic robots, things that mow your lawn. And that gives you a flavor of the spectrum of robotics and platforms across which we can work, all the way through from high-end, high-profile hardware and capability, all the way through to very cost-constrained hardware, like with Husqvarna, where you have very tight constraints on cameras and processors. This is our product, 3D AI Engine. It's a series of software components that can be adapted to solve particular perception problems. There you have the positioning in the middle, which allows, by processing data from cameras and other sensors, we can tell the platform where it is in space. On the left, you have a mapping. This is where the vehicle can map the 3D structure of the world around it. And then on the right, you have the semantics, where actually it's interpreting from a semantic point of view what the 3D world is made up of. And then sensor fusion is a more techie capability, and this is where we take different sensors, cameras, LiDARs, inertial sensors, and blend them together to give an optimal result. So this is the sort of type of perception capability that we can offer. It's one thing to tell you, but actually I think it's a lot easier to show you. So here I've got a short video. I hope this works over the link, but let's see how we go. There we are in the middle of Stockholm. We're right based in Södermalm, if you know it. It's a short introduction to us as a company. We're a startup. We have an office dog. We have fika together, and we have a ping pong table. So please come along and have a game if you're interested. But eventually we then get to the tech. Here we have a sequence of 2D images from on board a vehicle. And just using those 2D images in the video stream, we're able to create a 3D model of the world around the car as it travels through the environment. And you can see how this is useful for an autonomous vehicle or autonomous car, because now by just processing that 2D stream of video, it now has an understanding of where it is relative to that 3D world. You can see the red line is the trajectory, and indeed what the nature of that 3D structure is around the car. So here you can see it again, and this is happening on board the car. We're not streaming data anywhere. We're processing on something called a TX2, so it's all available to the car as it drives through the world. Here we're doing semantic segmentation, classifying the image into different types so the vehicle knows what type of environment it's in. And then we're also doing something called depth estimation, where we're monitoring how far everything is away from the vehicle, so it knows about things like braking distances. And here this is where we're using our deep learning, our AI, to do this. And then this is more classical visual odometry. Just using those images in the bottom left-hand corner, we're able to infer where the vehicle has traveled, but also to build up a map of the environment the vehicle has just traveled through. So there you can see we've built up that map of the road network, just using those camera images and with no knowledge of the environment before the vehicle went there. So Univrses writes software to give autonomous vehicles perception capability. But what we're starting to do now is give any vehicle perception capability. What we're starting to do is to take vehicles like buses, taxis, garbage trucks that are already out in a city environment, out in the world anyway. We can put a camera on board those vehicles, and we can take our perception software and run it using our engine to turn those vehicles into data harvesting agents. And so what we're doing here is taking advantage of the vehicles that are already out in the environment to gather data about the city. And this is to help, not to make these vehicles autonomous or to create autonomy in any way, but just to gather data about the environment to help manage the environment in a better way. So using our perception technology, now we can start to detect things that you see on the screen, all the way through from managing the world around us, to cleaning and clearing the world, to monitoring where there's damage to the roads, where there's infrastructure damage, to monitoring parking spots, and to monitoring traffic flows and pedestrian flows as well. We started in particular spots because this is where we perceive to be a biggest problem with cities in the world today. Stockholm has a particular problem with potholes and cracks because of the high temperature fluctuations. And it has a particular problem with roadworks as well. They have 4,000 roadworks in Stockholm each year. They know exactly where they should be. They have absolutely no idea where they are. And so they're very keen on finding information about where these features are in the city so they can manage the city in a better way. So here we are, we've managed to squeeze those perception technologies that I showed you before, and now we can run those on a smartphone. And what that means is we can turn any vehicle, just by putting that smartphone in the dash cam and running our app, running our computer vision and AI technologies, into a data harvesting agent. So now taxis, buses, garbage trucks, any vehicles that are out in the environment can gather data about the environment automatically, and that data is then streamed to the dashboard, and we now know where there is damage to the roads, the red are in the environment, and where there's roadworks in the environment. And that helps the city manage the world, manage the city in a better way, because it now has better data about the environment. And this is happening all at the edge. We're not streaming images up to the cloud to do any kind of processing. We've squeezed all our processing technologies, all our perception technologies out to run on the phone at the edge. And what that means is we're able to adhere with things like GDPR. We're not streaming images containing private faces and license plates. Although you can see from here, we do actually blur everything anyway, just to be sure. So as you saw from the slide before, we can start to detect all kinds of other features. We started in this particular space. There are now phones out with Taxi Stockholm, and we're also starting to work with other cities within Sweden as well. And then as we develop the capability, this is some of our more advanced technology. Here you can see, just using the images in the bottom left-hand corner, we're starting to detect parked cars. And when you know where parked cars are, you can then infer the space between cars. And you can then start to determine where there is free parking spots. And of course, that should be valuable information to you and I about where we can park. You can see there we're detecting traffic signs and placing that in a map. It's one of the biggest problems for cities, that they are responsible for monitoring the infrastructure in their city, and they don't even know what's out there in the first place. So here is an example of our computer vision tech just gathering data about the environment, not to make any vehicle autonomous anything, but just to help manage the environment in a better way. If we skip forward a bit, you'll see eventually we arrive at a bit of part of the video at the end where a car is stopped in a bus stop, and we can detect that that vehicle's in the wrong place, and we can just see that it's illegally parked. And all of that data we're detecting can then be placed in a 2D map to give the city, municipalities and other businesses information about what's in the environment to help managing the city in a better way. And it's not just cars and buses and taxis that we can put it on. We're in tune with those latest waves of mobility. Here you can see that we can even put a smartphone on an e-scooter. And so now when you're taking your e-scooter through Stockholm and other cities, you can place the smartphone on the mount on the scooter, and then that video will start to detect all sorts of data for the city. There we can see a parked car, other pedestrians to get an idea of crowding, and that enables that scooter to be turned into a data harvesting agent. There's incentives for scooter companies to want us to do this, because here we're also tracking the position of the scooter, again just using our vision technology, and that correlates nicely with their GPS, which is difficult. And there in the bottom left-hand corner, we're doing depth estimation as well. So we can give some kind of idea to the rider if there's an obstacle coming up, and then issue an alert. So we're creating a virtuous circle here where there's all the different technologies provide different value to the different stakeholders. Scooter companies know where their scooters are. The riders have some kind of monitoring for obstacles, and the cities then get data about their city to help manage the city in a better way. So that is what Univrses is doing. We're very interested in hearing from you if you're interested in autonomy or automation, and indeed in getting data about cities to help manage them in a better way. Thank you very much.
Yeah, wonderful, Jonathan. But you know, maybe if you can turn on your video, that would be great, so people can see who you are. They meet on the road. We have some question coming in. Do you have your?
It says I'm not allowed to turn my video on because.
Okay. Well, skip it. Then it's okay. I have a question for you from the audience here. This is also interesting for industrial structures and the maintenance teams. Same by logistics to find material in outside area. This is from Germany. This says, unfortunately, in Germany we have strong data security laws. How can you avoid not to see people? Can you comment on that? Oh, there you are. Great.
I'm there. I'm like, hi, everybody.
Great.
My video is free. That's good. So I think the question, sorry, was about privacy and not being able.
I think so. It came from Germany, so I think, and it was about data security and how you can avoid not to see people.
So as part of our processing pipeline, before we store any images at all, we run it through some deep learning networks that automatically detect faces and put a blurring algorithm over them. We also automatically detect things like license plates and put a blurring algorithm over them. So any data we do store, we go to great lengths to ensure that there is no personal data that's possible to see. But it's also worth saying our algorithms have been tailored to take advantage of the processing at the edge, out on the phone, out on the camera, so that we can actually, rather than save images, all we're doing is broadcasting the features that are detected. So I've detected a crack, I've detected a pothole at this location, and in which case there is no personal data whatsoever.
Perfect. I have another question. This is awesome technology, question mark. What is the incentive for a private person to use this application? It's a great question, absolutely. So we're actually starting working with fleet operators. So for example, we've started working with Taxi Stockholm, and we absolutely have to create an incentive for them to start wanting to use it. Of course, from a taxi point of view, they are looking to utilize their fleet in a better way. So they want to know where there are people. In an aggregated sense, so they can deploy their taxi fleet more efficiently. So that is the value that we are providing to them. If they put the cameras in their taxis, we will give an indication of where there are unusual crowdings of people. And then once they're there, we can start to deliver data. From a citizen point of view, it's something that the cities tell us they are very, very keen to do, is increase citizen engagement. And
in generic terms, the incentive, I guess, is to try and contribute to the better upkeep of your city. When we talk to city municipalities, one of their great struggles is getting data about and how to manage the scarce resource, given that there is an ever higher demand on those resources. And in order to deploy those scarce resources in a better way, they need data. And so if citizens can provide that data, it means that their taxpayer SEC, if you like, goes that much further because it's deployed more efficiently. Excellent. I think if you have any questions from the audience, there's time for one more. Otherwise, we have to say goodbye to Jonathan right now. No more questions. So I think we stop there. Thank you so much, Jonathan, and keep up your good work. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, please don't forget to unshare the screen so we can. I'll do that now. Yeah. Great. Thank you. So our next speaker is Björn. Is Björn around somewhere here?
I'm here, Magnus.
Excellent.
Good.
And
good
your video is on. Great. And can you share your screen and start presentation, please?
Yeah, there we go. I hope you see me and
yes.
My presentation.
Perfect.
My name is Björn Lindblom. I'm the chairman and co-founder of Luvly. And we have developed a platform for lightweight urban vehicles, which is perfect for transportations of goods and people in urban environments. And our platform is a perfect fit for electrification of vehicles for transporting goods and people within cities. So I will take you through how we do this. Our core USP is that we have developed a composite-based technology where we use flat composite sandwich panels, which we assemble with use of aluminum extruded profiles. And this is a boxy way of building a structure which is similar to a Formula One car. So we usually say that we build Formula One cars for very low speed. And there are quite some benefits with this technology, is that it's extremely light, it is extremely cost efficient, and as it builds lightweight vehicles, it becomes also extremely energy efficient. So the first generation of vehicles we have built have had sort of consumption levels down to 40 kilowatt hours, 40 watt hours per kilometer, I should say, which is about half of a Renault Twizy, which you might be aware of, or around a fourth or a fifth of a regular electric car. Some of the other benefits, as you can see on my screen, is that we can ship ready to mount vehicles to close to the end user and have the assembly close to the end user market, which means we save a lot of space in containers, for instance, when shipping vehicles. We base our vehicles totally on standard off-the-shelf products. So everything like engines, batteries, BMSs, whatever you need to build a vehicle is all off-the-shelf existing products. And we have some really good global partners in this field, which we are evaluating at the time. And we're really interested to get in contact with more customers with good use cases and even more partners and suppliers in that field. So I wanted to present one of our latest products, which we call the Cube. The Cube was developed from a customer discussion within transportation. They were at present delivering goods in very narrow city environments in Stockholm, Sweden. And they are doing it with quite heavy trucks pulling trailers. So the question was, can you do this in a more cost and energy efficient way? And we gave it a go on our platform, and we hope if we just get out of this existing pandemic around the world, that we can have vehicles on the streets in the beginning of 2021. With that said, you could think about that almost any vehicle development in the world wouldn't be possible within 8-9 month time frame. But that's one of the true benefits of the Luvly platform, as we use standardized components and assemble them together in an extremely strong composite structure. And one of the good things is that we can build different sizes of vehicles to adapt to the needs. We can build it for container docking or for handling Euro pallets or other solutions. The limitation we have is that we're not building big trucks. We're not competing with Scania or Volvo in this. We have a load capability which is up to possibly around a ton per trailer. But as each trailer is self-powered, we can add a few trailers after a lead car and build like small vehicle trains who moves around the city. Another interesting example with that is that we have discussed with fleet operators who are running around like small taxi pods, for instance, where you can drive people at busy hours, and then you can provide for goods delivery, internet shopping, or home food delivery, or other services when you don't have that high need for personal transportations. Most of our products are good for speeds under 90 kilometers an hour. We have built-in safety, but it's not to be seen as a car in that sense. It is not a 2-ton object that moves around on the streets of a city. The weight is around 300 kilos, as I said, and we have security elements that helps you protect the persons inside or goods inside in a good way. So, as I said, the time from idea to ready to sell is really rapid. So we have developed a number of different products for different customer needs. We've been in India looking into the electrification on Indian fleets of auto rickshaws, for instance, and other small electrical vehicles. We've been discussing with the Ministry of Urban Development. And I think that after the Corona episode, that will be a even more interesting development, as they now can see the skies in Delhi for the first time in many, many years. So as an example, this electric show, as we call it, weighs around 250 kilos and costs around $2,500 to the customer, the fleet operator, without batteries. And why is that? We knew from the beginning that there is a need to not have a higher price than a combustion similar vehicle. So that is one example, the Cube I mentioned. We also made the small blue retro look vehicle as a prototype for a former Swedish car manufacturer almost 10 years back, as an attempt to build really small, good-looking commuter vehicles within city limits. And we also looked into building small sports cars in the same way as Tesla started in the past. So we can do a lot of things on our platform, but what we really are interested in to look into different use cases which have the possibility to scale, and that's the main reason for me to being on this show today, to find customers who know what problems they want to solve and where we think that our platform can fit. From a business model perspective, we work both as a producer. We can build prototypes, we can build scale-up factories, and we can also provide license business if that is more interesting for the existing customers. So that's about it from my side.
Excellent. Very good, Björn. Thank you so much. We'll see, we have a couple of minutes for questions. So please use the chat if you have questions. I have one here which includes, I think you already it fits very well to what you already do, I guess. It talks about example of typical customers you could go after would be DHL and Amazon, for instance, or any distribution in cities. And as I'm aware, I think that's kind of what you're doing already, isn't it?
We have for the Cube, we have a big logistics player who are looking into this for really sort of downtown city applications, and also for distribution from sort of distribution centrals, which are located a bit outside big malls and big sort of city areas. So it's a last mile transportation option. And we can build that really efficient, both when it comes to the energy consumption, because if we compare it with other electrical small vans, for instance, you need around 2 tons of weight to move 500 kilos of goods. And we need around 300 kilos of weight to move 500 kilos of goods. So it becomes a really cost-efficient product.
You have more questions here. What difference, Luvly from Clean Motion in Gothenburg?
I think the main difference is that we have a platform which can scale. Clean Motion build their vehicles. They have done a tremendously good job, but they build it in the same way as you build a Koenigsegg, which everyone that worked with composites knows that the time and cost consuming part is to make the composite part as the outer part of the vehicle. And then it is the outer part, the things you see is actually the structure. Whilst we have a very boxy, some people would say ugly structure on the inside to protect people and goods. And that's the structural strength of the vehicle itself. And then we put a really nice looking outside onto it, which is a thermoplastic body which can be vacuum formed to any form.
I have one more question. You have to answer quickly to that one, but it's a good one. How can you do certification and safety testing in such a short timeline?
Some of the vehicles will run under sort of some European programs, so we don't need to make crash testing, for instance. You always need to make a certification test of the products, but we don't need to make the full testing in the same way as you do for cars. Though our Spanish partner crash test or simulate testing of the strength of the vehicles in the same way as they do for commercial airplanes. So we have a pretty good view on the strength of the solution.
We have to stop there, Björn. Thank you so much. I have more questions for you. I'll try to connect them and give it to you afterwards. And great. Also for the attendees, you will have the contact details from Björn and all the speakers, so please contact them afterwards. If you don't get hold of them or get any good answers, contact me and I'll help you. Okay, thank you so much. So do we have Karin in the room?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Super, you are so welcome. And you are sharing your screen, I think.
I will do so. Hopefully video as well, but yes, there it is.
Great, I see you.
Perfect.
And I hear you loud and clear, so, and we see your screen is coming around. Excellent. So now we're going into electrical and smart roads. A great topic. Take it away, Karin.
Thank you so much, Magnus, and thank you for having me. We are quite a new member to things, and even though we've been around for quite a while. So Elonroad is an intelligent infrastructure startup, taking on the challenge to have a journey to cleaner environment. And I will sort of go through
Hello? What happened to Karin? I don't hear you. Linda, can you take a look at this?
Well, she's not on mute. I don't know if there could be some
connectivity
local
problem, it looks like.
Probably, yeah.
Should we restart, Karin, after a little bit later, and we jump to Andreas right away, I think, if that's okay. Andreas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm not taken completely by surprise, but I'll start things one at a time here. So, you see me?
Yeah, sure, perfect. Can you share the screen even though Karin's screen is still there?
That could be a problem. No, you can't. I can't start sharing it until she stops sharing it. So I don't know if you, Linda, could force her, stopping her share.
Linda,
yep, done. I think you should be able to share now, right?
Not yet.
I have stopped Karin's sharing, it says here.
I'm still seeing Karin's share.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
I'm here. Meanwhile, hello everyone. So I'm Andreas from Talkamatic. We can take that off my 10 minutes, so that's done.
It's really weird. I can stop her as I have the superpowers here in my hands. I can stop her sharing, but it doesn't have an effect, which is really weird.
Yeah.
I'll try to put Karin in a waiting room and I'll see if that works.
She's hijacked our show. She put on the screen.
Completely, yeah, completely. I tried to contact her here.
There we go. So I guess now she'll be able to share. Let's see. And sorry for the rest of you that had to wait for this to happen. But let's see if I can get this shared. And
we see you. Great.
You see my screen and you see me shortly.
Everything is working well.
Everything is working well. That's perfect. Let's see if I can see what I want to see too and put that in the. Yeah. So as I said, I'm Andreas Krona from Talkamatic. I'm super excited to be here and get those minutes of full attention from all of you. So I'll try to use them wisely and explain something that's very, very complex. And a very big part of that complexity is that it's actually seemingly very simple. So let's see if we can manage that. I think we can all agree that dialogue is key to human behavior and has been so for the last 200,000 years or so. On top of that, we all learn to communicate from the day we're born, and therefore most of us are fairly good at it, or at least we believe so. So how hard could that be? One of the challenges we have as a company is that since we all know that talking is easy, companies and customers believe that using one or two US experts, a software developer, and a tool from Google, IBM, or Microsoft is all they need to fulfill all their needs in the field of conversational AI. And we do have numerous examples of customers that are coming back to us after 9 or 18 months and then admitting that it wasn't actually not quite as simple as I thought it would be. So I hope this story at least helps some of you to save some valuable time and money and to understand this, and that I can make you understand that Talkamatic has a key to a more human AI dialogue. So what makes us different from most commercially available solutions is that we have a background from more than 20 years of research within linguistics and dialogue, rather than the typical software engineering and machine learning background that you see a lot of companies have in the field. So thanks to the linguistic knowledge being built into our solution, as well as into our DNA, we can afford to allow ourselves to focus on the user experience and dialogue solutions from a human-centric perspective, instead from a straight tech perspective. So with that approach, we can, together with our partners, customers, and their users, find and create solutions that adds real customer value and potentially new disruptive ways of human-machine interaction. And by now you might be thinking that Google, IBM, and Amazon already are doing this, so why even bother? And it would of course be stupid of us to claim that we are a competitor to these tech giants. So I just want to clarify that we are rather a complement and upgraded brain that works inside of these available platforms or other infrastructure solutions than being a straight competitor to them. And right now, since we don't see each other in person, I will not be able to see you confirming nods or understanding, but I hope that at least some of you agree with me when I'm saying that the Google Assistant of today is mainly a fairly expensive egg timer, and that possibly you can agree with a huge frustration when Alexa for the third or fourth time starts playing a completely different song from what you're trying to ask for, no matter how loud you shout. So I will now show a few examples that I hope will give you a better understanding of some of the human-like dialogue behaviors that are automatically supported in our dialogue engine, TDM. So this includes things as change of subject, a deeper dialogue search, advanced instructional dialogue, contextual understanding, and grounding. And grounding is one of those phrases that I've learned by working in the linguistics field, and that is what we as humans do all the time. So that means when we nod or when we disagree, we hum, or we ask a follow-up question. And I had a presentation for Samsung Innovation Department in London a few years ago. And by the end of that presentation, I was asked if I could show a live demo. So I was standing in front of this huge conference table and had an audience of around 30 people. And not surprisingly, mainly middle-aged men in dark suits. So I picked up my phone and I started a food ordering demo by saying, I would like to order a menu. And then the system responded with, I heard you say, I like older men. And then there was a moment of a little bit of silence, an awkward silence before someone started giggling. And finally, everyone bursted into laughter. So aside from that comic relief, the more valuable part of this story is that this is actually a very human and very welcoming behavior. So if we as humans hear something unexpected, we'll naturally ask if the other person really said what they heard, what we heard, or we'll ask something different. So this is a behavior that would be very hard to program into a solution and even harder to reproduce in a demo. But it certainly shows the value of grounding in dialogue and one of the uniquenesses of TDM. And the next demo I will show you is presenting a number of different features, where the most obvious one is in this one is context switching. That means that the system can keep track of multiple different dialogues with different contexts in the same dialogue and help the user to conclude an unfinished task, even though she might have switched to a different subject along the line. And to enhance this cognitive experience, we have here chosen to use different voices for the different tasks. This is something that I don't think you've even heard or experienced anywhere before. So let's call it a sneak peek and world premiere of the future of dialogue. So in this case, imagine being in a car on your way home from work.
Hello, welcome.
I'm hungry.
What type of food would you like? Burger, sushi, or Italian?
I would like a Big Mac menu with extra fries.
What drink would you like? Coke, Sprite, Fanta, water, or orange juice?
I want to change temperature.
What temperature would you like?
What's happening?
I will change lane. An ambulance is approaching from behind.
What temperature would you like?
21 degrees.
The temperature is now changed from 18 to 21 degrees.
Returning to ordering a menu. What drink would you like? Coke, Sprite, Fanta, water, or orange juice?
Orange juice.
Okay, Big Mac menu with orange juice to drink. Extra fries.
Thank you.
Talkamatic, at your service.
All right. So the male voice you heard in this example is coming from a project we did together with Veoneer and Ericsson, where we investigated if dialogue could be used to relieve stress when driving a semi-autonomous car, and not knowing if and when the autonomous drive is in control and when you as a driver are in control. So that's one example of what we are doing and what we have been doing. All right, so I hope by now that you have got at least some kind of understanding of the difference between voice control as it is today and appear today and a true dialogue experience. A few things that our solution also offers that we haven't been able to go through in detail today. It is multilinguality. That means that it actually can support any language in the world as long as it is supported by surrounding components, meaning speech to text and text to speech and the things that we work together with. And also multimodality. And that means that it doesn't only work for a voice system or a text system, but it can actually work and be completely integrated with graphical user interface, IoT inputs and outputs, as well as other sensory systems like a nod or anything else triggering a dialogue. And so finally, I want to give you a short summary of Talkamatic's different offers and what we actually are delivering to customers and clients. So market analysis and pre-study, that's typically when a customer wants to start something in the conversational AI domain. And we notice that most of our customers has a very little experience and knowledge in the field and therefore can't really be a good buyer. So we do looking into what they really need and what they want and how that matches components and products on the market and what suits best for our partner or customer. The Dialogue in a Day workshop, that's a super fun and great inspirational day where we together sit down, a team from us together with a team from a customer partner, where we look into a concrete customer case and or a customer need where we can actually create a first dialogue in a day and experience a true dialogue solution. So then we're going through all steps in the dialogue development process together. I'll get a better view of how it works. Education and training. A large part of our company does have a research and university background, and also are doing education on a university level. So we can thereby, for you as a company or for anyone as an individual, create customized training or educational program that could be from a general strategic knowledge to getting into detail of the dialogue development. And dialogue design, this is where we use our dialogue first, user first processes to ensure that we in every little step create value for our customers and the end users. That's an iterative process, and that's the base of research background and common sense, and that leads us into the actual dialogue development. So this is all going a little hand in hand. And in the dialogue development, you can use us and our expertise in developing dialogue on whatever platform that suits best for your needs and your wants. And we can also, in those cases, add TDM as this extra boost or piece of the puzzle when we see that there is a need from a more natural dialogue experience. And we also have a licensed partner program, meaning that anyone that wants to deliver your own dialogue applications and keep control of everything in dialogue development can still use our tools and our experience. So you can work, there could be a consultancy company wanting to work with their clients to deliver customer experience, or it could be a big company, corporate themselves or yourselves that want to have this possibility. Finally, we can function as an outsourcing partner. If you have a different core focus yourself and you still see that the dialogue could be of value to you, you can use us as setting up your conversational AI or dialogue setup, and either keep on a long-term working as a partner with that or transfer that into your company eventually when you see that you want to take over this yourselves. And that's, I hope, within the 10 minutes and
yes,
all I wanted to say today. So thank you for listening.
Excellent, Andreas. I have questions for you. So we have a little bit of time. So the first one is, do you have any public available demos where we can test the experience?
I have a few demo phone numbers that I could share afterwards. That
so contact Andreas afterwards.
Absolutely.
about that. And the other question I have here is, what about languages? Is this only for English, or does it work for any other languages?
So I don't know if that question came before I briefly answered that, but I said that our dialogue engine is language independent, which means that, and that's also coming from our research background. I'll try to explain a little deep but fast, that if you're super hungry and you want to have a fish burger, it doesn't matter what language you speak, you'll still be happy when you have that fish burger in your hand. And we can develop this ordering process in one language, and then we can add new languages without needing new maintenance. We'll get that automatically. So what's needed in the languages added is that the speech-to-text and text-to-speech components are available in that language, as well as NLU. Then we can do the dialogue management in any language. So we have done variations of languages from Mandarin to Japanese to Persian. So that's not only Western European languages, but actually a wide range of different
Perfect.
languages.
I think we have to stop there. Thank you so much, Andreas. I'm sorry for your quick, I brought you quickly into this.
I'm flexible, it's fine.
But I know your background. I know you behave very well in those situations, so that's fine. Thank you so much. So let's go back to Karin now. I think she has changed room.
I'm back. I changed location. I guess this is the digital version of falling on your way up to the speaker podium. So
okay. So let's jump into your presentation. If you share your screen.
Yes, I'll do that. And I don't know where I lost you the last time, but
actually. You lost it very quickly.
Yes, so I'll take it from the top. Just very briefly to introduce you to Elonroad. We're an intelligent infrastructure startup. And as you can see, actually behind me, if you see in the camera, there's the factory where we manufacture our rails. And I believe that we need to take the jump into electrification. But electrification has its disadvantages, and I will talk you through what we see as the benefits of having an intelligent infrastructure. So it is a global problem, and as we have seen during the last weeks, due to COVID-19, the air quality in most big cities has really improved. And that is because we haven't been traveling so much. And I guess we want to go back to traveling, but we want to keep the nice blue skies and the nice air coming. And then we need to transfer ourselves into electrification. And in Sweden, for example, road transportation stands for 30% of our CO2 emissions. That's a quite high stake. And of that, 60% is us personal cars driving around. So commercial vehicles only stands for 40%. And of course, that can be different in different countries. And when we look upon what is sort of what is hindering the big rollout for electrification, it's for like people like me. I don't have an EV, shameful to say, but I think it's the range anxiety and how should I charge and the cost of batteries, all that is restricting me for turning into EVs. And even if we can't perhaps see 500 charging poles per station, even though there are calculations that says this is required if we should electrify all the 5 million personal cars that we have in Sweden, it's still the infrastructure for charging is something that is lacking. And if we go to the cost of cars, the batteries is really playing a big part. And not only the cost, but the lack of raw materials. And if we are looking into the future, I think there will be a scarcity of that kind of raw materials. And also for us in Europe, we are dependent upon nations that we perhaps don't want to be dependent upon. So having smaller batteries or lesser batteries is something that would be an advantage. So what do we do? Here I'll try to walk you through our technology. Bear with me because I'm not the engineer, I'm just a lawyer. So it's based on extensive research that has been done together with Lund University. And our founder, Don Cetrius, he has a quite also different background because he used to be a TV producer and director. And driving to work, he thought that why don't I be able to charge while I'm driving? And taking that idea for a few years, he built the first prototype in Lego and went to the university in Lund and found him a professor. And they were doing some research and found that this was really working. So we are a conductive version. So we charge by a conductive method, and therefore we can transfer up to 300 kilowatts with 90% efficiency. And this is important to have in mind, because then we can also charge really heavy vehicles. And the road is equipped with PCBs every second meter, because our security system is constructed so the vehicle sends a radio signal to the road, and the road sort of opens up and then transfers powers in very, very short segments, only 1 meter at a time. And this has the effect that you can charge both while you are parking and while you are driving. And you can have it on highways and you can have it in cities, because you can basically walk over the rail while a car is charging without having any power distributed into yourself. And the background for all the smartness in the road was actually the safety aspect. But then we discovered, having so much power processes in the road, why don't we also put in some sensors? So we will have temperature, radar and other features in the road. So actually the road is becoming smart. And it's interesting to hear all this about autonomous driving, because it can really help the cars see around the corner the next turn before actually going there and having a sort of access control to that. And here you see pictures of it, because a picture says more than 1,000 words. And up in the left corner, you see our CTO Andreas describing that when the radar is, or the lights are red, then the power is distributed. And when the signal is green, it's safe to walk on it. And you can also use this lightning to have different warning systems. And we have 2 different versions, both one that you can place on top of the road, as you see here, but also the next version to be submerged into the asphalt. And what have you been done so far? The company's been up and running for almost 7 years. And during that time, we had a pilot up for 3 years outside Lund. And now we are actually on Monday building the first stretch in Lund for a bus city line, together with the Swedish Transport Agency and the consortium partners. So if you haven't seen it, we have a big inauguration on the 4th of June that you can join on the web. We have also a project with DHL that since New Year's, they have a delivery van working, and so they have a terminal parking, which basically goes out, the van goes into the terminal, and all the driver has to do is turn off the key, and the charging starts automatically, which I think is very practical. And then we are also engaged in a technical feasibility study with a large European container terminal, because we can see that everywhere you have quite repetitive transportation patterns, and you need to have high uptime, electrical road charging is quite valuable. So what is the benefits? I already said you a bit like that, but perhaps if you take we are looking at the bus lines in Lund, and there are 10 bus lines or 10 buses. And if you compare us to having superchargers, you would need 2 for each bus line, so 20 superchargers. And but you would only need a bit more than 6 kilometers of electrical road to charge these 10 buses, because they have the same driving pattern. And it would be approximately the same cost as a supercharger. But you could also use this infrastructure for other vehicles. So it's more of an inclusive infrastructure, because more vehicles or more operators can be part and sharing the cost for the infrastructure. And also, since the road is smart, you could sort of have guide the effect of the grid and the electricity, and perhaps when it's low efficiency in the grid, you could only allow the vehicles that are really empty to charge, and the ones that are full of batteries, they just pass on, and the road will know that. We do have some competitors. We always get that questions, even if electrical roads is not so commonly known, but most people think of electrical road as the pantograph provided by Siemens that high up in the road is almost like a train. But there are other alternatives, and hopefully we are all tested by the Swedish Traffic Authority in different projects. And later this year, the Traffic Authority will have a tender for a larger stretch outside Örebro. We also often get the question of how can you make money out of infrastructure? And it is an interesting question, but we see ourselves as an infrastructure enabling software company. Of course, there will be a transactional revenue of the infrastructure itself, but given the value of the data that it can generate in the future, we see that that could also be something of importance and something that we could generate other businesses on. A bit of our road. We are now doing our first pilot in Lund and the container terminal and the park charger, and we need to scale up. We are doing some validation projects and certifications, and for this we need partners and resources and a lot of good colleagues. So if you're interested to be part of our journey, you are free to contact me afterwards. But we are looking for deploying this infrastructure on a large scale, and we are engaging in different discussions with other projects, not only in Sweden, but in France and in the US as well. So that's quite interesting. And we are looking for more projects, more partners, and of course, colleagues to be able to join us on this road to the future.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Karin. We have questions for you as well. So there are some questions. What about winter and salt and dirt? You don't have too much of that in Skåne maybe, but you know, other places.
Not winter perhaps, but dirt and rain we have. But that has for the on top rail that we mount, just placing on top of the road, that will not be a problem because the rain will fall off, and we have of course taking that into consideration with salt. And I assure you, if you buy a kilometer of road from me, I will guarantee that you have a snow plow specially designed for that. Okay. And for the submerged version, we also have constructed it so it won't be a problem with snow and salt.
Great.
And it could be heated. I mean, it will be heated. And due to our temperature sensors, we know when the temperature will go below 0, and we will put on the heating beforehand, so we don't use too much energy to heat the road.
Excellent. I have somebody says that you should contact somebody. I think you will be contacted afterwards. I think you shouldn't have that on video, but I think we stop there. Thank you so much, Karin. I'm glad we got you back again.
Yeah, thank you.
We lost you. So thank you so much. And we have to jump into our next speaker, who's also from southern Sweden. That's Kenneth. Are you there?
That's correct. Hello, everyone. My name is Kenneth. I'm from OurGreenCar. So I'll just start share to see if this will work out. Hopefully you see this.
Yes. And
excellent.
Presentation mode as well.
Sorry?
Can we put it in presentation mode as well? So we
of course. There we go. All right. So
take it away.
My name is Kenneth. I'm one of 3 founders of OurGreenCar. So we're a quite young company. We started 2.5 years ago. As a result of just actually me and 2 friends sitting around, and one of us had an idea of bringing a clean mobility service to Sweden, as there was pretty much only one big act in Sweden that everyone knew about. So we thought that maybe someone should try to put some competition on the table, and OurGreenCar actually was born. So we're a mobility service provider at your doorstep or in your house. So what we do, we have a fleet of electrical vehicles, a smart booking system in which you can book the vehicle you need and unlock it digitally without a key. And we take care of everything when it comes to the traditional car owning. That's all when it comes to maintenance, as washing, tire change. We have a 24-hour support. So other than that, we have really been working hard with changing the behavior, actually getting people to use a mobility service. Because just placing it out and point at it and tell the customers that, hey, you've got a mobility solution here with 3 cars and 5 bicycles, that's not enough to actually get people on the solution and to get them to sell their secondary car or not to buy their own car. So that's something we are working really hard on. So as of today, we have vehicle pools running from Malmö in southern Sweden up to Uppsala. So as far as of today, we have sold our solutions to 12 cities in Sweden so far. And in a matter of these 2 years, we've actually created vehicle pools for pretty much all the 10 largest real estate developers in the country. And a short while ago, we started to sell our green clean solution to companies as well. So they have their own vehicle fleet specifically for them in the house and for the employees. So that's pretty much it. The vehicles we have, as you saw in one of the beginning slides, is electrical cars, bicycles, cargo bikes, and even mopeds. So we can pretty much offer a customer the right vehicle for the right trip, because as long as you only have cars in a carpool, well, those cars will be used for the unnecessary trips that might actually not require a car if you don't have anything else to grab a hold of. So one of our definitely big USPs is that we have a variety of vehicles, so you can choose the right vehicle for the right trip. Another feature worth telling you guys about is definitely that the traditional carpool is rather fleetless. It can float around in the city. You pick it up through a mobile phone where you allocate a car, for example, and then you leave it at another place. So that as a phenomenon itself is great. Other vehicle providers have station-based carpools that are open for everyone to rent. So the biggest difference with OurGreenCar is that we have our solution dedicated for a specific group of people, for the people in this company or in this house or in this neighborhood, right at your doorstep. So yeah, that's it. Short but intense presentation. Maybe
very good. No, we like that. We were a little bit behind the schedule, so that's
yeah,
great.
I know. So I sped up. Yeah. So any questions or?
Yeah. What about where are you in terms of funding and so forth of a company?
Yeah, well, we to bring the story back a bit, we got an E.ON, an electrical, one of Europe's largest electricity company. We got an E.ON's accelerator in the beginning of 2018, and in the end of 2018, we actually became the first startup company in that accelerator receiving an investment. So it was a pre-seed investment that we took in the end of 2018. So they have a minority share of the company today, but we're good partners. Yeah.
Okay, great. What is there any more questions? Yes. What's your value? Will your value proposition be competitive in developing countries?
Hopefully, if everything goes as planned, definitely, because we do have expansion plans internationally, but that will most probably take place with the neighbor countries and spread organically, so to say. But definitely, I mean, if the market allows it and we grow as we plan to do, that will be a time of question, yeah.
So what's your business model typically to a city or a real estate owner?
Well, to tell it simply, it really contains of two revenue streams. We have a buyer of the solution. So, for example, a real estate development company, they want a vehicle pool for the building that they're building. So they pay us a monthly fee for X vehicles to be there. And the second revenue stream would be the rates coming in from the people actually using the service.
Great. I don't have any more questions here, so I think thank you so much, Kenneth. Please don't forget to unshare your screen. Yeah. And we will jump into our last speaker of today, Mohammad. Are you around?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent.
And now I'm going to share my presentation.
You know how to do this.
Yes.
So this is interesting. As you probably have seen, we tried not to have the most obvious mobility companies or business models, and so we tried to take a look around, around what mobility needs and can be recognized. This is really one of those companies who bring something which is not obviously for mobility, but there are some great use cases. So I'm
Can you see my screen now, my presentation?
You are
perfect. So hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammad, the CEO and co-founder at Innobrain. Innobrain is a neurotech company. Of course, not a mobility company, but we are a neurotech company providing a brain-computer interface platform for industrial application. And with this platform, we're able to evaluate and track the human cognitive and emotional states. And this platform based on the foundation of neuroscience and the analyzing power of artificial intelligence. But what is the challenge today that we realize it within the automotive industry? I personally come from the automotive side. I was working Audi, and my background is automotive engineering, so I'm totally familiar with this industry. And one of the challenges in the industry, this automotive industry, is that tracking and evaluating the cognitive and emotional states of drivers and passengers is challenging using the current methods. But why they do that? Because we want to actually build products, build vehicles for human beings, for people. So they should like it, and we should understand how do they perceive our product or vehicles and the services that providing with them. So the approaches that are used within the industry is mostly based on pen and paper methods, observation, interviews, questionnaires, etc. But we know that these approaches induce biases to the participants or to the passengers or drivers, and the results could be unreliable. And there are actually complex situations and complex products within this within the vehicle industry that made these approaches unsuitable. And the other thing is that there are limited range of application. For instance, how we can actually evaluate kids, how we can evaluate like old people or even people with communication problem, because we produce vehicles for all type of people, all type of users. So this is one of some of the drawbacks with the current approaches. So Innobrain actually provide a brain analyzing platform that can evaluate the cognitive and emotional states of a person. And that's simply to, we measure the brain signals of, here in this case, we can say passenger or drivers, while they're actually using or vehicles and when they are inside a vehicle. And we took actually this technology and we explored this technology earlier within the medtech industry. And that is to understand and evaluate the patients, basically. But here, we replace the patients with drivers and passengers. For instance, in this case, you can see we evaluate the patients and we want to understand how the patient perceives the device. We want to understand the workload of the patient while working with this device. So this is one example that we took from the medtech industry. So using a platform, this is actually basically an automated platform, and there is no expert needed to analyze the results. So it's bias-free, so there is no communication needed between the experts and drivers and passengers. So it makes the results more reliable, We provide objective results. This is something which is missing using the traditional methods. We provide time-based information, and we can actually use it remotely. We can just expose the users or the drivers and passengers, and we can observe them remotely. And as long as we can measure and access the brain, we can measure the brain signals. So there is no limitation in terms of age or gender. We can measure everyone. We can understand different type of passengers. So right now we see a different level of autonomy moving forward from the first level, which is like basically just driver assistance of like ABS, ESP, etc. And we're moving forward to the full automation where there is no actually a driver playing there. But the most important thing here is that we're building these cars for humans, not for machines. So at the end of the day, we have to understand how our users, which are passengers, perceive our product. And this is what the Innobrain is actually focusing on. And I provide you with some of the use cases. Currently, for instance, evaluate the ride, comfort, and handling of the vehicles, we have expert drivers. And these expert drivers drive the car, and after tuning the car, they propose some changes to the car, and they try to transfer the understanding from the car in terms of like comfort, handling, etc. on paper. Based on those information, we optimize the vehicle. But what will happen to the car of the future when there is no steering wheel or when there is no driver's seat? How do we want to test those vehicles? And here is what Innobrain comes in. We can just measure brain signals of the participants, and we can understand their emotions. The next use case is, now we see that the teleoperation is growing. For instance, the Einride here in Sweden is starting as like teleoperated trucks. So they're at the same time, a driver can actually drive different types of different trucks hundreds of miles away from its own office or room. But how we make sure that this driver, which is responsible to take the goods from one point to the other, is in a good state. And this is what we can actually provide and what we can track. We can track the cognitive state of the drivers to make sure how much is the brain load of the driver right now, how much is the concentration of the driver, and do the driver are able to perform the task which they are supposed to. And now we're moving to the, actually, even nowadays, we're not in the future to have those autonomous vehicles, but nowadays we see lots of infotainment going in the vehicle, and all these infotainment could actually capture the attention of the driver. And we want to make sure that these vehicles are safe, and these infotainment are easy to use. And understanding these easy to use and safe to use products is difficult using the traditional methods. And here's what, again, Innobrain comes to play. And the future vehicles, they could be the living room or a workplace. And how to evaluate that, here is what exactly we can actually provide a platform to evaluate the emotions, cognitive states of the passengers. So right now, Innobrain, we moved from the medtech industry, and now we're expanding to the automotive industry. And now we're looking for partners who are interested to join. And we're also looking for early adopters that would like to test the product. So we're looking for pilot studies. And so if you have interest in that, I will be very happy to showcase our platform. And if you have questions, I'm here for you.
Excellent, Mohammad. Thank you so much. Let's see, we have a question here. I'm trying to figure out. I read it. Which is your current business priority? To get into automotive industry and or compete with traditional research serving business and or other priors? That's a complicated question, but you got it.
Yeah, actually, we are not competing with the current approaches because we don't say that we're replacements, but we could be in some cases a complement to current traditional processes. But in most of the cases, for instance, in the autonomous driving, or tracking the cognitive state of the pilots, we of course will be superior because the current approaches are unable to provide such services or such information. How do we want to track the driver's cognitive state by just observing them, or so it's not possible actually. So, but we have a research background, and what we have right now is peer reviewed. We have neuroscientists in our team. with a strong research background. I did my PhD within this field, though we actually use the first application within medtech industry. Now we're expanding it. Since we have a proof of concept, we exploited that within the medtech industry, which is more sensitive. It directly relates to the people's life, patients' safety. So we tested that. We have big customers and big partners within the medtech. And now we're trying to expand within the automotive industry. So this is the current state.
I have questions, more questions. How do you get the input from a driver? EEG requires sensors, obviously.
Exactly. We have actually off-the-shelf hardware. So there are different type of hardware, and we're not hardware dependent. We can work with any type of hardware, and we only need the raw signals. So you can actually find it in the market just by searching for EEG devices, and our competence is to extract those specific features from the brain signals. This is our proprietary.
Here is a very good question. Well, all questions are good, obviously, but this one I like. Can your application be extended to track student focus in the case of e-learning?
Exactly. This is of course one of the applications. That is also one of the ideas, but it's a bit far from now for us because we need a specific hardware for that. But of course, I mean, when you talk about the cognitive and emotional states, you can have tens of applications, not only within the automotive or medtech. You can apply it for the design industry, for the advertisement industry, food industry, or gaming industry, education, to track a person's cognitive and emotional state. So this person could be a passenger, driver, a student, a patient, or an audience or viewers. So of course, yeah, that can be used for.
Excellent. I think we have to stop there, Mohammad. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Let's unshare your screen. So with that, my friends, we are through the program and we are in time, which is great. Despite the problems we had with the e-roads in Lund, I just wanted to point out with you that what we do, I think we are really after business relationships between small and large companies. We are not after necessarily proof of concepts or trials and things like that. We are trying to give you companies who are, as I call it, corporate ready. Companies who can start to work with you, and it's going to probably take years until the two of you end up with a real solid business relationship that lasts forever. So that's really the attempt to what we do here. And I think, again, we had a great sample of companies here. They are all ready, and they have already tried those kind of things. We would like to know if you have problems reaching them afterwards. I really tell you to go to the YouTube channel if you want to go back to see a presentation again. They are actually timed, so you can pick exactly the right presentation or to show a colleague or something. And if you have any problems whatsoever to find or reach any of those companies, let me know right away. That's really what I do. I'm going to help you. I'll also mention that for larger companies, we have our membership in Things Enterprise Circle. And the typical kind of services we do beyond inviting people to events and so forth is what we call challenges. That's something we do a lot now. So we are currently doing 2 challenges. We are working with Krona, who just launched a circular innovation challenge, which is really one of the core objectives in the entire company they're working after now. So we help them to do that, and I look forward to see all the companies coming up with great proposals to them. And I hope we can continue to work a lot with circular innovation and things, because that's really a good topic and complicated topic. Another one we're currently doing is together with the electricity infrastructure provider, Ellevio, together with the retail electricity retailer, Good El. And they have a challenge for innovative companies who can help speed up the transition to a sustainable kind of energy situation. And they offer a very big prize. And that's, again, where we help out. So that's typically how we work with larger companies. So with all of that, I'll just leave you with our plans for the future. We have done now 5 pilot bazaars. and we're going to investigate and analyze very well how we can improve them. We are planning to make this an institutional play in the fall, and we're planning 10 to 12 events, probably starting late August. So with all of that, look forward to get a post-event mail from us. We have all the contact details to all the speakers, and also a little questionnaire where you can give feedback to us what you like and don't like and so forth. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to all the speakers, and have a really good evening. Bye-bye.